Today we're going to be talking about sets. We're going to be talking about books made of wood, wood made of foam, and Chinese safety gun videos. That's what we're going to talk about because we're talking with Joe, who is a production artist here at Coronation. He's a storyboard artist, concept artist, and he helps build a lot of our sets and props. And we're just going to go over some videos that we've produced over the last year, talk about the nitty-gritty details of making, I would say, movie magic. Making movie magic with Joe. Here we go. Welcome to Heralds Fools, the podcast where we talk shop. We talk about client projects, passion projects, the nitty-gritty details of what makes creative life so fun. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how's it going, Gary?
Good, man. Good. It is early in the morning today. We are both dads with kids, and my daughter was kicking my face at 3 a.m. because she's having growing pains, and I did not sleep much. So, welcome to the podcast. This is it's going to be good. And Joe, you have a lot of kids. You have one on the way imminently, and your phone has to stay on.
Yes, my phone is on. It's in my pocket. We are ready to go if we need to. Baby was due, 4 days ago or something like that. So we're on red alert for sure.
Yeah. Luckily, you live very close to the studio.
Yeah.
So you will be rapid response if need be. Just open the garage door and you can run out.
Bolt out here. Just run down the street.
Yeah. We really designed the studio nice, and you design things.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time. So, Joe, you're a multi-tool here at Coronation, but you're really focused on the sort of vision behind things. You do a lot of storyboard and concept art for us, and you also got into production design. That's like the chief buckets that we're putting in. Not like we haven't deployed you in other ways, but making sure that something looks and feels right and has the right vision going forward.
Yeah.
And you're working with us on our upcoming feature we're shooting, which we're inches from being able to talk about. Just can't talk about it yet. But we're doing a lot of set builds for that too. Doing the concept art for that. We have storyboards pinned up on the wall, and we're really stoked to see that. But we've done a few small things this over the past year that I was gonna dive in today. But how did you end up in that area of this world, and what was the genesis of that?
I mean, I've always just liked building things. I like being hands-on. I think that's one of the cool things about film and being a filmmaker is it's one of the only industries where you can do anything you wanted and still be in the same industry. So if you wanted to be a potter, you can be. For the Lord of the Rings, you want to make swords, you can be. If you want to be, on tech or gear, you can be. Lights. I mean, you name it, you can do it in film. So for me, I've always thought it would be a great segue into learning the different departments in a project by doing as many of them as possible, and then finding the ones that I enjoyed the most. Yeah. So for me, building sets, building props, is like a really close companion to doing storyboards or concept art, because it's like the next translation of the idea like into reality. So that's basically where I started doing that. And I think a lot of my first set builds were more like special effects based, where it was like, oh, we need to be in a pirate ship. How do we do that? We have $5, and we're like, okay, well, let's figure out a way to build something that looks reminiscent of the interior.
This is one of the shorts that you did, right? Is that what you're talking about? Or is that a different one?
A different one. Okay. Yeah, I've done a lot.
You did a sci-fi short.
Yes, I also did that.
Look, there's the footage of it, and it looks great.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And did you do the props and stuff on that too?
Yes, and I had help with that one. I had a production designer. She was fantastic. She did a great job. But I did a lot of the work on that, making sure that everything looked and felt the way it was supposed to feel based on the concept art that I also did for that project. Yeah.
And then you came here. And then, well, it's so funny because Joe, like you were in California. And then you're from Pennsylvania. You lived 10, 15 minutes from the studio. And it was like, whoa, where'd this dude come from?
Yeah, it was a crazy little chain of events that landed me here. And then I remember just kind of like explaining like, oh, I can do almost anything you need me to do, and I'm happy to help. And then I don't think it was until we were actually talking about the Exodus project that I was like, oh, I could build those sets.
Yeah, I think so.
And we were all like, wait, really? And I was like, yeah, like we can do that. It's not a very complicated thing to do. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and historically, when we had done sets and stuff, it was very much like bringing on external people, like doing that. And let's talk about the Exodus project. So the Exodus project was Exodus 90 men's ministry. It encourages men to do all sorts of basically sacrifices and challenges, and focus on scripture for a period of time. They give up screens, and they give up alcohol, and they give up all sorts of things. They give up like everything. Watching sports, listening to music, except if it glorifies. They just give up a ton of stuff, and it's a really tough sell to explain to people immediately. It's a tough thing to understand immediately. And so they wanted to do a video that would explain to an uninitiated audience in a fun way what Exodus was. And so with their chief creative officer at the time, Jacob, who's such a good dude, he's like my bud, we came up with doing the sitcom thing.
Right. Yeah, the sitcom
like
style.
This retro sitcom. And then we're like, hey, how do we do this? Usually we would use external people to help us fulfill this vision. But you were like, I can do that.
Yeah. I wanted to just like jump in and do it ourselves because we could have so much more control over it and the budget and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. The only challenge there was we didn't even have like a garage. Yeah. We didn't have any equipment, tools, none of that stuff.
We were literally in the middle. So this was probably... It was like December or November or something of 2023. And we were still in our little office park, rest in peace, at Creamery Road.
RIP.
And we were computers in an office space. Yeah. And we were inches from being able to get this new studio where we do have a garage, and then we have a studio, and then we have a ton of, even just our office space, there's tons of unused space. But it was just the timeline. We had to get it done quick. So we ended up shooting at a great local studio, Triode. They're awesome, too. Shout out to Triode. And their space is awesome, but we needed to build all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so where'd you build all this stuff?
Yeah, so some of it was out in our parking lot, and then a good chunk of it was at my parents' farm. Shout out to my parents.
Shouting out everywhere. Tired shout outs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
tired Thursday morning.
The podcast. But yeah, and then I also got my brother Gus to jump in and kind of just help out and be like an extra set of hands. And he was super helpful. And basically,
we should say too that Coronation. We had so many props. That we had our office space, but then we had 2 storage units. Full of props, like packed.
Yeah.
And so that was also how we were storing all of our flats, doing all this stuff, running to this really like, I'm not going to shout out where our storage units were, but it was a process. It wasn't like an easy, it wasn't an easy, like go back out to the studio, build the thing, deploy it. No.
Yeah. We had to transport the whole set like 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah.
So everything had to be like modular, just classic, like set wall, flat build. And kind of leaning on props and everything. And luckily for us, it was because it was in that sitcom style, we were able to make it a little bit more rough and ready because it fit the aesthetic.
Yeah, it was okay to see the seams a little bit. Yeah. And it was a lower budget project. And also another shout out to Emma, who helped us with some of the art direction too, especially her chaotic board.
Yeah.
That Tanner, shout out to Tanner. He's awesome. The actor on the project, lead actor. But this board where because the whole conceit is like these guys come in and the lead guy, Tanner, is like, hey, we need to be better. And then hops over to this like crazy conspiracy theorist board full of yarn.
Yeah.
And gives them the Exodus strategy, the game plan. And I love that. I love the design there. And she put a lot into the little details of that
too. Right.
Yeah, you all did. And the other thing too is we were going to pour the VHS look over the whole thing.
Yeah, on top of it.
A lot of those details you don't even see.
Yeah, exactly. And it needed to be, I mean, it was a quick in, quick out kind of a project, and we had to build this whole, living room set with props and everything, and we knew that we weren't going to be able to actually hide any seams or do any of the actual construction work that we wanted to.
Yeah.
So it was kind of dictated by that.
And even dictated down to like, here's our truck. How do we, building flats that fit in the truck.
Exactly.
Figuring out the breakdowns of the flats.
Yep.
Because they weren't permanent flats that you were building. They were highly transportable by 2 people flats.
Exactly. Because we had no loading equipment or unloading equipment. I mean, we basically had some drills. That was basically our entire equipment list for this project.
This project also was the source of the yellow couch.
Yes.
Which the yellow couch is now, it is a staple and a symbol of a hope for some people and despair for other people.
Yeah.
So where'd you get the yellow couch? Because we were like, we need a retro couch. It needs to look sitcom. It's sort of 70s, not really, kind of like timelessly television.
Yeah, it was a difficult couch to find. It was the kind of thing I went to a bunch of different like furniture outlets and like used places and stuff, and could not find the right couch. There kept being old couches, but nothing that had the particular look. And then I think it popped up on Craigslist. It was it was it. I saw the listing. I was like, oh my gosh, it's it. It's perfect. It's the yellow couch. It's like every sitcom couch you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Complete with 1 cigarette burn, It's exactly what you need.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it is perfect.
It's perfect for that. The one thing I will say is,
hey. I'm sorry. Oh my God.
Come on in, Bill.
Come
on in, Bill. No, just keep it rolling. Come on in, Bill. We're talking about the yellow couch.
Bill,
the yellow couch here at
Coronation.
Coronation.
I hate the yellow couch. Hey.
What are your opinions?
I hate the yellow couch.
Thank you, Bill.
The symbol of hope is hated around the office.
Well, I think that's the thing is like, for right or wrong. This is a real Heralds and Fools episode.
This is great.
_Fools. Anyway, but the yellow couch is like, you have like, when you're running a studio, and I'm not actually good at interior design at all. I've like had to have people like help me, even just to point the office.
Yeah.
And the problem is that, and I will just randomly like buy a crazy thing I think is a good idea. But I have the sense that like we should be appointed and it should look like a professional environment. And the yellow couch was just such a bold thing. But the thing is, and the reason I'm saying this is it went from prop to being like in the studio immediately.
In the office.
I would just walk around the corner and there would be a whole room built around the yellow couch. and then Emma left the team. And she's awesome, but Emma left the team and moved on to New Horizons, and she wanted the yellow couch. And we're like, Emma, your gift is the yellow couch, because she talked about it for months.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Emma gets the couch. She likes this couch. She loves this aesthetic. She loves the 70s thing. This is good. This is the proper end for this couch. And then Emma got a gift from someone, a new couch. And so the yellow couch is still here, and it has made its way back into into the studio.
Now it lives in my office, and let me tell you, that couch gets used all the time.
And that's, no one is going to care about that, but that is.
But anyway.
But yeah, that's part of the fun of production design is getting weird props. Yes. We did something where we had we did this documentary series called The Purposeful Universe. And we were filming with Karen Oberg, who is I believe Harvard, like cosmologist. Mm-hmm. And so she like studies distant planets searching for extraterrestrial life.
Right.
Just by examining the light signatures from the planets to see what gases are associated with them and if those gases are associated with life. It's like, and I'm sure I'm butchering that horribly. But for her video, we had this concept, because the whole thing was pretty stylized. It was like a stylized doc.
Yeah.
We're like, we want to get an orrery. What do you know what an orrery is?
Yeah.
It's like a little model of the solar system that rotates with little planets. And they're really like cheeseball ones for kids.
Yeah.
But then there was this one company in Great Britain, and it was like a father-son team, and they make beautiful, perfect orreries that when you turn them on, they rotate at the exact time that the planets would scale differently, but it's like perfectly mathematical. And this thing is like hundreds of dollars. Yeah. And now it's in my office. So that's part of like of the fun of like props is you get weird stuff, and sometimes even if your boss hates it, it is still here in the office.
Still sticks around. No, our prop shop now is pretty awesome. We have a lot of really interesting stuff back there. We've got a ton of, old books, fake, books and props, and the fireplace, like all sorts of just like random stuff that now we can house, because before, like you were saying, we had a storage unit.
Yes.
Now we actually have a legitimate prop shop and prop storage space in the studio. So.
With I would say a decent level of organization.
Yeah. It's definitely got started.
Knowing you can just pull stuff, especially the books, because we shoot so much like education stuff, and we shoot so much like stuff with talking heads where people are in library sort of settings, and having additional books that are light, made of cardboard. How do you make your books? What are some of your book hacks for making pop books?
Some of my book hacks. I think this one's the most entertaining one, the most recent one I did. We needed more books of an old style aesthetic on this bookshelf, and we ran out of time. And so the day of production, I ran into the prop shop and cut up a bunch of 2x4s, like a bunch of just like wood, cut them into book sizes, and then painted the one side of the 2x4. And on camera, it looks just like a whole shelf of books, and you can't even tell that it's just a bunch of 2x4s that were just chopped up and fill space,
Yeah, and in some circumstances that would absolutely not sell on camera. Yeah, but given the format, you'd never see. There was another one where. We can talk. Let's talk about. Let's wrap up the Exodus thing, because there are, I think, a lot of fun details with that.
For sure.
We can talk about the poop tube, which is maybe your favorite pop you've ever built.
It's perfect.
Talk about the poop tube.
So the poop tube, in the design of kind of this like 70s show living room aesthetic, we were playing with the idea of it almost being like a basement to one of those like bi-level homes, right? Where it's like a brick house, but it's got like the silly looking striped walls. So we wanted to have a brick wall and a like striped wall. And I was like, well, a lot of basements and stuff have, and like especially like New York style apartment and apartment buildings will have plumbing pipes exposed. These big black, cast iron plumbing pipes. So I thought it'd be a really good idea to make one to basically hide the seam between the brick wall and the striped wall. Yeah. So we had our roll of flooring, and the cardboard pipe that was used in the middle of the roll of flooring was left over after we unrolled the flooring. So I took that pipe, put some PVC, ends on it, painted the whole thing black with chalkboard paint, which has like a really heavy texture to it. Yeah. So then we set it up, and it looked exactly like a plumbing pipe was exposed. Yeah. So we called it the poop pipe.
Yeah. One of the only part that I had, so I was directing it, and I had like the idea of wanting to do this 70s 80s. It's like there's no real time to what this is, but I wanted to do this vibe. But the only part that I really got my hands on with was all of the photos. Yes. Which was one of the places where I feel fine about deploying AI. So it was late at night, and back then we were in a busy season, and I was working, at like 1 a.m. generating these like incredibly just cursed images of people's families to put in the background, because we had tons of photos on the wall, and I snuck a bunch of Easter eggs in there too. But I like made sure that like I was like, well, this guy needs an orange shirt because it's the Exodus orange. So like the family all has like mostly oranges or blues, and that was a fun project. I think we launched right into that. Then we were shooting an education piece with Chrysler, or no. Right after that, we were shooting an education, like sort of video series with His Way at Work. Yeah. I think that was immediately after. Because then we got the studio. Yeah. Yeah. And then before we even had the warehouse ready to be a studio, we hadn't built our editing bays yet. Right. So then
That's right.
we built in where the editing bays are now. We built this big set.
About that. And then wow. Yeah. I forgot that came right off the back.
It was right around then.
Exodus.
I think it was, we shot Exodus. It was Christmas, came back, and we shot His Way at Work. And that one had one of my favorite props with, just because it seems so crazy or so hacky, but it worked so well, was a stained glass window. Yeah. Talk about that stained glass window.
Exactly. Yeah, that was such a cool, it was fun to kind of like take what we'd already done, but then elevate it a little bit. Once again, really tight, turnaround, had to get the whole project done, and it had to be set up in essentially our living room here in the studio.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I wanted to do a stained glass window, and
we also wanted to give them some input as to what the stained glass window would look like.
Exactly. So we had to kind of design it first.
And stained glass windows, real nice churchy ones, are really expensive.
Really expensive.
Yes.
And incredibly time consuming to try to like make or get commissioned.
Yeah.
So basically impossible for a project like this. But I knew that I was like, once again, you got to play to the camera, you got to play to the audience, and if you light things right, it's amazing what you can kind of get away with. Yeah. But off of that, it needs to it was all built on like the layout, the structural layout of what the stained glass window would be. So I designed the whole thing, laid it all out on a piece of paper, knew what the window needed to be. I framed the window in the flats for the set. And I made sure that the frame itself for the window was like somewhat elevated, a little bit fancier than it would typically be, kind of in line with what you would see at like a church rectory or something, where a stained glass window would make sense. So I framed the window first, and then I got a sheet of plexiglass and used hot glue to create all of the lead work of the stained glass window. So I laid everything out on this big sheet of plexiglass for where everything would be, and then used hot glue to create all of my gaps. And then I took Elmer's glue and a bunch of paint and different dyes to create my different colors. And I used the Elmer's glue and filled all the different sections for each different panel of the stained glass.
And then did you painted then the hot glue with black or?
Yeah, and then I painted the hot glue with the black just at the very end to kind of give it like a final, tied together look.
Yeah. It worked.
Yeah, it totally worked.
Yeah. And it was like one of those like early, because I think often like when we're breaking down scripts or like we're working on the movie now, there are these things that you're like, for instance, we have a plane upcoming in this movie.
Right.
And we talked about it, and it's like, this could cost us so much money to do this plane scene. And then you break it down, and I mean, time will tell, but we have a really fun way that we're proposing doing an old plane. And this movie is period too. It takes place in the early 80s. And I think it's going to work. But there are ways, basically what I'm saying is there are like these things and these problems that arise when you're starting something. And sometimes they seem insurmountable. Like for this project, we did not have the budget to get a nice stained glass window.
Right.
We would, and we didn't even have the time to put anybody on hunting a cheap stained glass window.
Exactly.
But but then you figure it out, and it looks great. And we've used it probably a couple times at this point. That stained glass window,
maybe 2 or 3 times. I mean, now at this point, all the Elmer's glue is pulled back just from the different temperature shifts that it's gone through. But yeah, like, I mean, you problem solve for each individual project. You figure out how you want to achieve that thing, and you look at your timeline. And another aspect of that project was we needed these big bookshelves. Yeah. And we couldn't order in bookshelves in time. Yep. And then we also couldn't find bookshelves in time. So I had to make bookshelves.
We couldn't find bookshelves that looked the way that it needed to
or
look.
Had the scale that we needed. So it was like, well, it actually just makes sense for me to build some bookshelves. Yeah. And so, I drew up some very, very, very simple plans for the bookshelves, and then we did it. And it ended up being, the stain wasn't even dry when we were rolling cameras. That's right. But it totally works.
I think that's one of the things when you think about props. And I know this is the case for a lot of guys, and we're in our rough age bracket, is that they grew up watching Lord of the Rings making ofs. Right. And that is like the gold standard of attention to detail. Right. And directors and marketing campaigns will always talk about it's like every inch, or actors, every inch is perfect. You can walk into any corner.
Yeah.
and you can see the subtle patina of age, and it makes you feel, and it's like all of that is true, and it's romantic and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But like when you're doing this stuff and a lot of stuff like this, it's like your functional goal is to fill pixels in a way that makes no one where it even like draws the eye away from the things you're not supposed to look at.
Exactly.
And so those bookshelves, you wouldn't want them in your house.
Right. Exactly.
But on camera, they look good. They look like high quality bookshelves.
Exactly.
And it's just it's not doing the bare minimum. It's doing the proportionate amount given what it is. I think Moby Dick is on that bookshelf like 6 times.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? It's like
many times.
Yeah.
Dickens is all over it.
Yeah, that's right. And it's funny. But that being said, if you're in an environment, even in that environment, which was a pretty simple set, I believe someone walked up to the bookshelf and tried to pull one of the books off and look at it and was surprised that it was like a chunk of wood.
That's right. They were like, oh my gosh, this is just a 2x4. Like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, it's weird how it works out. Yeah, so that was another set. And then, another one that just comes to mind right now, because I think this one was cool. This one was like special because it, again, seemed like it would take an enormous amount of time, logistics, and pose even like a hazard filming that you had to figure out. So this was for another group that was shooting long form ministry videos. This is for Christ's Life, long form ministry video. And we were going to build, it was a live event. And they had this huge, the design that you came up with really was this huge wall of wood. Right. And it was based on some earlier stuff they'd done, and it was taking it to a higher level.
Right.
And it was like sort of shiplappy wood that was like, how tall was it?
It was 16 foot tall.
Yeah.
Almost 20 foot tall, I think. So
we're talking about on paper, and as the design is, you're talking about a 20 foot tall, freestanding, heavy wall.
Yeah, right.
That if it fell on someone would kill them.
Yeah, it would be super dangerous.
And we also, again, had a particular budget with confines that would probably disallow us from getting like a ton of, or really sourcing a ton of rustic wood.
Right. And structurally, I mean, that project is a perfect example of looking at the problem and saying, okay, this is what they want. And within our confines, this is impossible / really dangerous. You should definitely avoid the real thing. Well, then how do you, what's the next solution? Well, it's got to be fake.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes, well, how fake does it need to be?
Yeah.
And then you just try to figure out, okay, how many steps away from real can you take it before it breaks the illusion? So for those, I designed it on kind of like a proprietary paneling system so that we could have 2 sets of panels connect to each other with essentially a puzzle piece in between each one. And the whole design was built on taking foam sheet and cutting it and scoring it in such a way that it looked like wood panels pulled off of pallets. Yeah. And then I did a little bit experiment and tried to find some textures and colors and wood stains and stuff that I liked. I built a little variety pack of looks for this fake wood. Yep. And then for, I don't know, whatever it was, 4 or 5 days, I was just out there cutting and carving foam and painting the foam to look like wood. And I think at the end of the day, it looks like wood. It looks real.
It looks like wood. Yeah. And even holding that little piece of foam, because you took one piece of foam and you had basically carved wood into 4 or 5 areas and stained them in different ways. And even holding that, it sort of tricks your brain a little bit because you're like, this is weird. It's like wood floating on pink foam.
Yeah. It's very strange because it's so light.
Well, that's the great part about then. That's why you need it to be, because you couldn't. It was not heavy. That whole wall was not heavy.
Exactly.
And you could make it safe very easily.
Right.
And that, I mean, we had to do a separate pickup day where we were doing pickup photography for that live event here. Right. Set up the wall, make it look the same, and that was another fun project. The tactile part of the set work of making real stuff, and it still looks better than. If something is tangible, it still looks better because you can use it. And even if it is made of foam, it's still on camera. There's so much more latitude and so much more flexibility. And so you can be reactive and things still, hold together. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited about building this part and continuing to build this part of what we're doing.
Yeah, continuing to extend what we can do, our set sizes and everything. Now that we have this full studio space, we can build almost any scale that we want to, which is fantastic because we didn't have that before. We were always bound by the limitations of wherever the set needed to end up.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I'm really looking forward to is building more structural sets.
Yes.
Because that's another constraint we've had is all of our sets have had to be packed up and moved in a small van. Yeah. So whether that's multiple trips or whatever, it's like now we can actually build things more stably and actually hide the seams and do it right in a sense.
Yeah.
But still following all the tricks of the trade and a lot of the different things, techniques that I've kind of used and come up with for making things light, safe, and efficient and all that kind of stuff.
It feels like the beginning of something that will become more and more useful. It's like a weird area where being a hoarder is really useful.
It's really important.
And it makes junk accrue value over time in a different way. Yeah. We had a project come in, short timeline, limited scope, and we're like, well, if you go with this angle, here's all these props we have and we can deploy them like this.
Yeah, right.
And it's just, you walk into the prop shop, you grab what you need, you put it together.
Yep.
We had to set up a bedroom sort of scene, and it was a stylized video, so it didn't have to be perfect, but it was like set up a little bedroom scene, put it on the psych wall, set it up, lit the wall with an LED, and it was like cool. And it was like, it took no time.
Yeah.
And you're able to get more control over it and intention behind it. It's such a fun thing. It also leads finding you in the office doing weird things often.
Yeah, it's very true.
like I walked into the garage one time and you just have an airsoft gun and you're like, or it wasn't even an airsoft gun.
No.
And you're just like, this is the best prop gun I've ever developed. Talk about that gun. Because it was just so funny to me.
Yeah, it's like
I was like, hey Joe, what's up? And you're like, nothing.
I'm just working on guns here. Yeah, well, because that's honestly, that's part of what being a prop guy entails is you're always trying to problem solve something that you don't actually need yet.
Yeah, right.
Because then when that project comes in and says, hey, we need a prop gun, you're like, aha, I know exactly how to do that. The stained glass was like something I had previously thought about and played with similar things for a different effect for like spiderweb stuff.
Okay.
And then I was like, I bet I could use that for stained glass, and it's like, so as a prop guy, you're constantly experimenting and playing with random crap to try to find out what you can use it for. So like the prop gun, I've been looking for like a pistol that can cycle like a real gun, unlike a lot of the airsoft guns. And I wanted it to be something that was cheap.
Say to a fellow like me from New England, what a gun cycling means. A fellow like me who grew up where...
Yeah. I should just go grab the gun, honestly. It's up in my office.
Yeah, right. Until I moved down here, gun culture is definitely more of a thing than when I grew up in my stupid little New England.
Stupid little New England.
Whatever. Shout out to New England.
Shout out stupid little New England.
Or specifically Connecticut.
There we go.
Specifically Connecticut. Go ahead.
There we go. But so when a gun cycles, it basically means the top slide cycles back on the gun.
Yeah.
So that function is to eject the shell and reload the next round.
Which airsoft doesn't do.
Airsoft doesn't do unless you get like a more expensive blowback style gun. But even then, they don't have a shell. There's no shell that ejects.
So when I was in middle school,
yes,
and I was doing all of our gun videos, and we had lots. I would basically tell my friends, I would be like, and this is really how you become a filmmaker. It's like I would have a birthday party and I'd be like, hey guys, and I'd invite as many buddies over to my house as I could.
Yep.
And it was probably very easy for my parents because I was just like, they just have to come over.
Yeah, they just have to show up.
And then so I have like 13 dudes and we're all like 12 and I was like, okay, here's what we're doing. Here are our weapons that we have. We're going to make a movie.
Yeah, we're making a movie.
And this is what it is. And that was like constant. I would do that all the time.
Totally.
But I would take our little toy guns, and even if they were like the wrong color, I'd do this. And I could really do muzzle flashes when I was like 13.
Yeah.
I was really good at it.
After Effects.
No,
flash
dude,
pack?
I didn't have After Effects. I had Alum DV.
Oh,
Amateur Light and Magic DV, which is like another company
Yeah.
now. It's like film. It's called Film something. Shout out to them. But the alumdv.com was the most lit place.
Yeah,
it was like the corridor guys were on
Yeah.
there in high school.
That's right.
There was all these other randos from all over the world making these crazy shorts, and I was learning from them. And basically, so I would take like a little toy gun and I would frame by frame mask out the back, and I would add like a 2-frame
cycle.
Yeah, 2-frame cycle, and then I'd like do at least like a 3-frame sort of like ejection of something, and I'm sure it looks like hot garbage. My computer, actually, that's it's like with the burning of the Library of Alexandria for me. A lot of my early work in middle school is gone because my computer fried.
Absolutely cooked.
Yeah, it was awful. It was a really sad day.
That is a bummer.
It was like when Obi-Wan felt the death of Alderaan. But it was my data.
Yeah, the data is gone. It's gone.
Oh yeah, but yeah, lots of lightsabers. But anyway, so this gun, this prop gun that you are working on, it does this.
Yeah, it actually has a shell. So I found this prop gun through a Chinese firearms safety video, which is funny because like in China you can't have a gun.
Yeah.
So the closest thing they can get to a gun is a toy, essentially. So it's this little plastic toy, but it functions exactly like a real gun. And it's like super cheap. It's like $12 or something on Amazon. Yeah. So I bought the thing. I was like, all right, this is worth the risk.
Shout out to Amazon.
Yeah, shout out Amazon. Here's the link. Just kidding. And I took the gun and I painted it up, and I stretched the main spring that cycles it to make it cycle a little faster, like a real gun. But yeah, just a little paint job, and yeah, it looks fantastic on camera.
And when you shoot, it discharges a cell. It cycles. Then you just have to add the lens flare.
Exactly. Then you just have to add the muzzle flash and any other smoke, which that's like my next step. That's the next part of the prop gun thing I want to tackle.
Yeah.
Which I have some ideas, but we'll see. We'll get there eventually.
Awesome. Well, I think that there's so much more we can talk about, but I think that's good for now. Well, once we build, let's get in a few more months under our belt and see what we build, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
We'll fill in the gaps.
Yeah,
we built a spaceship and a bunch of other hot air balloon.
I do have a hot air balloon script.
Do you really?
Yeah, there's a story.
That'd be sick.
Dude, I actually really want to do this one. So there was, in the Civil War, there were hot air balloons used tactically. Do you know about this?
I do know about this, and I freaking love this part of history.
And it is like, and there's multiple stories. My favorite is the one of this guy he was a Union guy. He was trying to scope out the Confederate flanks. He came untethered and then floated behind enemy lines. And then his wife was like his teammate, and then she had to go and take a cart through enemy lines. Warfare was clearly a different world back then because she took the cart out, went through them. They let her pass through. She found him. She put him, smuggled him back through. Crazy. And that was the script, is what it's about.
Why are we not doing that? That sounds sick.
Well,
we could do that.
I needed someone to be able to build a hot air balloon.
Well, we can do that. That's like easy peasy work.
Actually, I forgot about that script. We should totally do that. To be fair, though.
Dude, we should freaking do that as a short.
We should do it. That'd be really sick. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, let's do it. That's like super easy.
A hot air balloon?
Yeah. I'm not even joking. It's like,
okay. How would you do it? How would you do it?
So,
problem solving with Joe.
If I was going to problem solve, I know this is totally
hot air balloon, vintage Civil War hot air balloon. So we actually almost did this. I was trying to do the hot air balloon digitally.
Okay.
Because I was like this. I was like, we're in Gettysburg.
Yeah.
There, throw a rock and you'll find a guy with a Union soldier's costume.
100%.
They walk around town.
And
you see them at coffee, and they're in hoop skirts.
Right. And the most difficult part, probably, of this whole project is all the stuff that's on the ground. All the stuff that's up in the air is actually super easy.
Would you digital?
So no, I would do a miniature hot air balloon for your wives.
Of course you would.
Of course, obviously you can control it. You don't need 12 artists. You just need one or two.
I got at least one guy named Seth who thinks, I bet he would say we could do it digitally.
I don't know. He'd probably want to do it for real.
Fair enough.
To be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because it would be faster. It'd be more efficient. But
Oh, that's really debatable. Continue.
Yeah, we'll take it up with them. We'll talk to them about
right.
it. But yeah, so I would do a miniature for your wides,
Okay.
and then I would build the actual lower half of the balloon. So everything that's not the actual balloon,
Yep.
but all of the ropes and tethers and the actual basket that he would have been in, and then shoot everything either on a volume or on.
Oh yeah,
green
just
screen.
just on the volume.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if it was a miniature, you could just shoot on a TV.
You could shoot yes, you could shoot the miniature on the TV.
And you shoot
Actually,
the
it's a great
person
point.
on a green screen.
Shoot
and
the
then
person,
you build the basket.
You build the
Because
basket.
that was my thought, is like,
Yeah.
you can easily build the basket. The
Easily.
basket's easy.
That's what I'm saying. That's like, this is like a
Go to
no-brainer.
Hobby Lobby. Get a small actor.
And a basket. Like a comically big anchor.
Yeah,
Like,
it's great. And then the guns. I mean, honestly, I really like this script. It's just one of those things where it's like you watch these gritty war movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, yeah, war is hell. I understand it. There's also a dude in a balloon.
Yeah.
Where's the balloon guy?
Where's Balloon Man?
I've never seen Balloon Man. And probably there is a movie that shows this, but
Yeah.
I want the Balloon Man.
Dude, let's do it.
Okay.
We'll do it over a weekend.
If all 300 of you want to watch the balloon
Only
video,
putting up the Indiegogo.
yeah, please tell us in the comments. And if you want to hear more shop talk from people trying to make good stuff and make good films out here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, stay tuned to Heralds and Fools. Thanks.
Yo.
And we actually have BTS stuff.
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
too.
Which is something I need to be better at doing, because I completely forget. I'm like, oh right, yeah, dude, I did a stained glass window. Like I forget. Like I'm constantly reminded of the stuff that I've freaking done. I forget that I've done.
Yeah.